As I said, I'm a solutions architect at Chef. And you can find me on the Twitters at Matt Stratton. I do a podcast. I'm annoying. You can find me on the internets wherever you want, so that's fine. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to talk about one of the things that's important in DevOps is about people, right? I was really appreciative because I talked to Adam and I said, can you really change your talk around, your keynote, so that it works really well with my silly GIF talk? And he totally did. So when he talked about people driving DevOps, that's really why, because we needed to lead into this. So DevOps is about people. His tools are awesome, but DevOps is really about communication between people. And also, here's the thing, words are hard, right? And reading takes time. We're all really busy. Nobody has time to read. So what we want to do is we want to avoid as much reading as possible. And velocity is the key for all of the DevOps, right? We always talk about how much we want to improve velocity. And the velocity of communication can have a direct impact in how your business is running. So tell me, between these, we're going to show two different conversations that might be happening in your hip chat or something like that. And let's compare and see which one is clearer. So here's the wordy way. Sean says, whoa, I just accidentally rebased the entire Git repo. And Matt says, that wasn't a very good decision, Sean. You should really consider the ramifications of your decision next time. That's a lot of words to read. And you might might not necessarily understand what I was saying. Am I kind of being a jerk? Am I actually wanting to help him? I want to make sure that I'm very clear. So we can do this another way. Let's see if this is much better. That's very clear right there. There's no question about what I'm actually trying to say to Sean at this point. No. So look at that. I replaced that long string, and there's very, very, very clear communication within my team. Now we talked a lot today, right? You know, Nicole talked about the science, right? The numbers. And again, we have a PhD here, so this is all backed by real math. Just trust me, okay? So the impact on business, clearly your hilarity is the most important, and much, much more important than things like continuous delivery and test-driven development. So don't forget ever. You can call that delight. I call it just being funny. Now, automation is the key for this because you don't want to be slow. Again, it's about velocity. So timing is everything in comedy. Velocity matters for delivering your product, but it really matters when you're talking about your GIFs. You have to be fast. They're called reaction GIFs for a reason. And you want to be able to not have to spend a lot of time figuring out what's the appropriate response to this, how do I do this? You got to be able to shoot from the hip. It's especially important in real-time communication like HipChat or Slack. If you're talking about, making a comment on your delivery commit or something like that, you might have a little bit more time than if you're doing it in HipChat. But I will show you an example shortly about why this is so important when you're talking about it in real-time communication. And do you really want to slow down your delivery pipeline because you're too slow with a GIF? That's like how you get fired, okay? That's not DevOps. Now, this is the manual workflow of delivery of hilarious GIFs. Someone says something that you want to react to. Okay, input. You go to images.google.com and you search for the appropriate GIF. You paste that URL into the chat room, and by the time this happens, 10 more messages have gone by and nobody knows what you're talking about anymore. For example, Sean, then I get around, hey, here's what you're burnt, Sean. And they say, what are you actually talking about? And now my manager says, this is going in your performance review. Don't do it this way. This is the wrong way to DevOps. The secret is text expansion. You need to have, first of all, you need to have an arsenal of GIFs that you can call up at a moment's notice with a single keyboard shortcut. Personally, I use a tool called Text Expander, which is Mac only. There are other variants. Pretty much every operating system has something. You can do whatever it is, but the idea is still going to expand. Is going to apply depending upon whatever text expansion tool you want to use. And I actually am going to have a link for downloading this, and I have a discount code for attendees for Text Expander. Yes, I actually went out to this serious utility company for productivity and said, hey, I'm giving a talk about animated GIFs. Can I have a discount code? And they said, absolutely. So that was awesome. So the first thing you want to do when you're using your text expansions, you want to organize your funny. So for me, inside TextExpander, I have a folder called lolgifs, because believe it or not, I actually do use TextExpander for doing real work and regular stuff, but I never remember those shortcuts. But you better believe I remember angry. I use that one a lot. But that's another thing. You want to make sure that they're easy to remember shortcuts. And I learned this the hard way, is I used to make shortcuts that would be called something like Tyrion says no. Well, now I have to remember that's not, they should be, think about something that's the emotion you want to respond to, not actually a description of what it is. So you see things like, for example, Angry Nope is not called Leslie Nope is angry, it's just angry. You know, Celebrate Me is just celebrate, etc. Now the other thing is, now having descriptive names helps so I remember which one it was. So organization is key. Another thing is I like, personally, when I create them, and this is I like to prepend a comma with no space to the shortcut, because you don't want to have a shortcut that you're going to accidentally type. I've actually run into that in a few cases, for other cases where I actually want to use a word, and then it keeps expanding it, and it's really obnoxious. Unless you're a really bad typer, this particular one is not a problem, because you usually aren't going to do a comma without a space after it. So example here, by typing in comma angry, it expands it into replygif.net/i/229.gif. This is way more useful than you think. And if you're and side note, it actually is really useful for real reasons too. So the other thing, research ahead of time. Don't wait until you need a GIF to find it. It's better to have a GIF and not need it than to need a GIF and not have it. Think of the responses that you tend to need and preload your tool with those things. So think about the way your team works. Think about the way you like to talk to your team. Think about the things you want to say to them all the time. And then preload them and be ready. And then here's another little bit of a pro tip, is you can practice your GIF-fu by creating a private HipTap channel so you don't have to keep going back to your text expansion to remember your shortcuts. It's kind of nice to have a little private channel where you can practice, because we have to keep practicing. And finally, here's some pro tips when you're really ready to level up. First of all, think outside the box. Look for some obscure animated GIFs. Picard face palms are for amateurs, okay? We've all seen them. But think about things like obscure films. Now, that being said, any hackers movie GIF is always appropriate. You could set up a GIF party channel in your HipChat for coworkers to randomly share their favorites, and then you can totally steal them. We may or may not have done this at Chef, and I may or may not actually do this all the time. And also, just when you're searching for images, just include animated GIF. I mean, it may sound simple, but it makes things a lot easier. And also, here's another thing. Replygif.net is a treasure trove. And I'm going to shout out to Fletcher, because he shared that one with me. And you know what? Test Kitchen is awesome. And yeah, it changed my life. But replygif.net has changed my life a lot more. And finally, consider your audience. So funny is not more important than safe spaces. This actually does apply to replygif.net. There's probably some not safe for work, and then not safe for work may depend upon your work. So think about, what's actually appropriate for your particular environment. Because again, funny is super duper important, but safe spaces are most important. And then we'll be sharing these slides. You'll be able to get them to get these, but you can get TextExpander. Actually, this link here will automatically apply the discount code. But if you just go to look for them, that Chef 2015-04 MST, wow, that was terrible, is 20% off. I have a Git repo where I actually keep my expansion shortcuts, so if you want to totally steal mine, you can do that. And if you want to be a real pro GIFer, right, there's also GIF keyboards for both iOS and Android, and so they're both useful for when you want to, if you're on mobile HipChat or in Twitter and things like that. So thank you very much. I hope this actually provides some extra velocity in your awesome DevOpsing.
Let's give it up.